Hi, I'm back. So today we are going to be doing some stenciling workshop, street art style. So unfortunately we've had a couple of technical hitches with the laptop, so I'm going to be using my phone. So if when I'm going through everything you can't see anything, please bear with me. I will try and do my best to show you everything that you need to see. So my name's Lucy, as I said earlier, and I'm sure you've all heard of street art and all the different really cool street artists out there. So one artist that you may have heard of a lot in the media is Banksy. So today the image that we're going to use is going to be inspired by the rat. So we've got a lovely picture of Mr. Ratty here. And we're going to be using this picture to make a stencil to then use in lots of different ways. So let's get started. What you need to do, if you'd like, you can print out a picture. So I've chosen the rat. So Banksy's used the rat in a lot of his street art, but there's also a chap, a French street artist that started doing street art in the early 80s called Black Le Rat, and he was the first person to use rats in street art, so really the credit should go to him, but most people have heard of Banksy, so we're going to go with Banksy. I've chosen this particular picture because I really like the really crazy hands on the rat. It's a bit, the only problem with that is it makes it harder to cut out. So if you'd like, you could draw something. You can keep it simple, or you can do it really technically difficult to cut out. Just depends on your skill set. So what we're going to need is we're going to need a picture, either drawn, printed out, or however you'd like to do it. We're going to need some card. We're going to need scissors, check. We're going to need craft knife. Only be using craft knives if you are older and have used them before. Make sure you're using them safely. If not, a parent or guardian or somebody at home could help. So we've got some blue tack, check. We've got pencil, rubber, we might need, we might not. Glue stick, PVA glue will do, Pritt stick, whichever. And some really cheap washing up sponges. Okay, so let's get started. So we need to create our stencils, and we're going to be creating our stencils in lots of different ways. But first, what I want us to do is to create a background for one of our stencils to go on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a plain sheet of card, and we're going to start our stencil background. Now, the reason we're doing this part first is because we need to make sure that the paint is dry and all ready for us. So I've chosen 3 colours today. I've chosen purple, pink and yellow. You can use as many colours as you like, totally up to you. You can use paint palettes. Paper plates work for this, normal plates work for this. If you haven't got anything paint palette, I've got a paint tray, and I'm going to be using the paint tray today. So what we're going to do first is we're going to add some paint. Give me a second. Right, so on our tray I'm going to add squirt of yellow, you also might want to put something down on your tabling so you don't want to get paint everywhere. Some purple and some pink. So just put some little blobs on, we don't need a lot. We're not going to be using lots and lots of paint, and we're going to be using these. You can get them from Pound Shop for a big pack. I'm going to use them, and I've already cut a few pieces up. So I've got 3 pieces that I've already cut up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start using the paint. So I'm going to dab into the paint, and then I'm just going to dab to one side, because what we don't want to do is create lots of really wet paint. So we want this to be quite dry and keep adding layers. If it's really wet, it just takes ages to dry. If you're struggling and you do lots of wet paint, you can actually use a hairdryer as well to help things along. So I'm going to start with some yellow, and I'm going to build up the yellow. So I hope you can all see what I'm doing. I'm just dabbing on. I'll elevate my camera slightly for you. So I'm just dabbing some areas of yellow. And apologies if you can hear my daughter crying in the background. She's just having her lunch and clearly struggling and not eating it. So I'm going to add some areas of yellow. So we don't want lots of wet paint, we want it to be able to be dried quickly. So we can add our rats in a bit. So now I'm going to use some pink. And again, I'm going to pop the pink into the, pop the foam into the pink, and then just dab to one side, and then go back to the paper, and we're just going to be doing, we're building up some pink. So I'm just going in areas. Now this is, if you can see, it's coming out in squares. You can cut your sponges to any shapes and sizes you want, and that'll also have an impact on what shapes you get on your piece of card or paper. And we're just going to keep dabbing away. And I'm going to add some more pink over here. I like to blend the colours in a little bit if you can. Or you don't have to, you can keep them separate. So you can also twist, and that creates a really nice effect. So twisting. Have a play about. So next colour I'm going to use is purple. Dab to one side, and then I'm going to add purple in all those other areas as well. And we're going to build up. So we've got a really lovely, colourful background for our ratties to go onto. I probably should have put something on the table, but it's fine because I can clean it afterwards. I've just used really cheap ready mix paint for this. You can use whatever kind of paint you like, whatever you've got at home. I don't think watercolours would be very easy with this one though, because you need something that you can dab into a bit easier. Watercolours might just be a little bit too thin to get a really dark background. So dabbing along, that's it. Some more on this corner here where there's not very much paint. So you don't have to do it as quickly as me, you can take your time. I'm doing this quite quickly because actually, if I'm honest, my arm is aching from holding the camera. Maybe I need to work out a little bit more. So we're going to dab, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix in some of the colours. Now you don't want to mix them in too much. I'm going to need a little bit more of the yellow paint. Just to dab in. I like the mix of the pink and the yellow together. And just break it all up. So So a bit more yellow around here, around the edges. Fabulous. Apologies for seeing my hand there. Right, so what we've done is a really quick, normally I would have spent a little bit more time doing this, background. And what we're going to do is we're going to set the background to one side and we're going to let it dry. So if there's any areas of paint that you can see that are really thick, just dab over them, thin them out a little bit, move them around, and then that will help when we're doing the drying time. So I'm going to set this to one side, and we're going to go back to Mr. Ratty stencil. So my paint. So as I said earlier, I printed Mr. Ratty out onto paper. Now from that you could either copy it onto a piece of thin card. So kind of, you don't want card that's too thick for a stencil. The ideal card for a stencil is still quite bendy, but it's thicker than paper. But what I've also got is I've got loads of leftover gift bags from Christmas. So I've cut a piece of old gift bag out as well, and you can use this because it's really nice thick paper. So if you're struggling for cards, something like this, you could use old packaging, anything at all that's quite thin but thicker than paper. So I've drawn Mr. Ratty onto this card. Now a little tip for this is, even if it's thin card you can still do this, is to get your picture, if it's drawn, go around the outline in black and then pop it behind your piece, hold it up against a window. So hold up against a window and you'll be able to see the outline loads easier. So just trace around the outline so you've got something to make a stencil out of. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this onto a piece of coloured card, and we're going to trace around Mr. Ratty, and then we're going to cut him out. And I'm going to show you a couple of ways. One with using scissors to cut him out, and one using a craft knife. So here's one I did earlier that I've used as a little demo. So you can see he's got paint on him. I'll turn him around. There you go, you can see Mr. Ratty there. And the inner part from that has been cut out. And what I'm trying to do is, when I'm cutting out, I'm trying to keep the inside and the outside intact. Now that is quite difficult. Easier if you're using a craft knife, but if you're using scissors, don't worry about it. Draw it on twice. Use one for the inner part and one for the outer part. Once you've got your inner rat cut out, we're going to use him first. So we're going to do two different bits for two different types of artwork. Actually, three different types of artwork. And I'm going to show you cutting Mr. Ratty out onto your gift bag first. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop Mr. Ratty down. Now this is where your blue tack can come in. So to help, you can stick on little bits of blue tack around the rat, or whichever shape you've decided. You could choose a really simple shape. You could do a star. It doesn't have to be something that's really detailed. So you can choose whatever you'd like. We've chosen the rat because I think the rat's great for one, and because he features a lot in kind of street art, and this is street art style. So that's why one of the reasons we've gone for the rat. So all I've done is I've stuck bits of blue tack onto the rat, and now I'm going to stick him onto my paper, just like this. Okay, then you're going to need your pencil, voila, and you're just going to draw around your rat. Doesn't matter if you make too many pencil lines or you go over, you've got your rubber, you can rub them out. it doesn't matter at all. So I'm going round. Helps to hold down the smaller bits, so the little bits of Mr. Ratty's hands and claws, I'm holding down the edges as I'm going round. His tail's probably the trickiest part, so what I'm going to do with the tail is I hold down one side and draw around, and then I spin him round and then I hold the other side down. Right, so now we've got Mr. Rat. Take the blue tack off, and we've got the outline, you see, of the rat. So we're going to use scissors for this one first. So a little tip when you're doing this is, if there's a flat bit, a straight bit in the picture, you can fold. So I'm going to choose where his back is. You can fold your paper like that, and then with your scissors you can cut a tiny strip into it, so you end up with a bit like that, and that can be your starting point. So we're just going to cut him out. Now this is the tricky bit. So this is where, if you've used a really simple picture, it's easier. Okay. Nice sharp scissors always help too. Take your time, okay? And like I said before, it doesn't matter too much. If you ruin the outside or the inside bit, you can just do it again. So another little tip that you can do is, if you want to, you could cut into a piece of paper like that, and then you can tape that back up later. So we'll do that. And cut him round his tail. So this is the thin bit, probably the trickiest bit. Round on the inside of his tail, which again is probably the worst, hardest bit. Then onto his claws. I really like cutting out. I find it quite therapeutic. Take your time, there's no rush. Around the bottom of his face, and then we're going to do his top claws. Then his ears, and then the top of his head, and we're done. So we've got Mr. Ratty in a bit, and then the Mr. Ratty out a bit. So this bit that I cut here, we can actually just tape up. So I'm going to use masking tape. And literally, going to peel a little bit up. And we're going to chop it off. And then we're going to stick down where the cut is. And press down. And then, there you go. You have an intact stencil. Right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to create some coloured rats for your background that we've just painted, and then we're going to come back, we're going to use the one we've just cut out to do that. So I'm going to call this your template rat. So you don't have to use him for anything, just keep him to draw around for when you're, or whatever stencil picture you're using, you can use him again and again and again to draw around. So I've done some previously cut ones. So I've got green ratty, yellow ratty and black one. Right, so now we're going to be doing orange. So again, you can use bits of blue tack if you'd like to help this bit. You don't need to. And you can position your rat onto the orange paper, and I'm just going to hold him down and I'm going to draw around him. So this one we're going to actually use a craft knife to cut out. So draw around him, and again, if your pencil goes a little bit wrong, don't matter. Always got rubbers we can use. So again, tail is probably the trickiest bit. So I'm going to hold it down on one side. I know you can't see this very well, but it's just really all I'm doing is tracing around the shape. And then back up again. Up to the top. Up to where his ears is. There we go. So I've literally just drawn around, you see that? The shape. So now we're going to be using a craft knife. So I've just got a retractable one that I like to use, but there's lots of different types of craft knives. And the one thing you are going to need is something to cut on. So a cutting board. I've got a little cutting board here we're going to use. If you don't use something like this, what's going to happen is you're going to, whatever surface you cut on, you're going to ruin your table. So don't do that. It's a bad idea. So I'll move my other bits out of the way, and I'm going to try and angle the camera a little bit better for you so you can see how I'm cutting out. So things to remember when you're using a craft knife is always cut towards yourself. Never try and cut with your hand going backwards or around in a circle. So cut towards yourself and move your paper around as you need it. Don't move your hand around. So I'm going to start on the rat at the back here, and I'm going to cut right down. I like to put my finger on the top as well because it helps me press. Take your time. Don't put your fingers in the way. You don't want to cut towards your fingers, but you do want to hold down the piece of paper or the piece of card that you've got. Now, definitely use card for this, or really thick paper. If you use thin paper, it will tear the paper, okay? So I've just moved it around, so I'm putting towards myself again. I'm not trying to cut round in a circle. So, yes, we're going to keep doing that. His claws. I'm going to go round his claws again. So like I said, do be very careful when you're doing this. I would say if you don't know what you're doing and haven't got experience using a craft knife, don't do it. Use scissors. Last thing anybody wants is an accident at the minute. We don't want to end up in A&E with everything that's going on. So use scissors where you need to, and I'm going to go round, moving the paper as I go. And I'm going to do his feet. I don't know if you guys can hear, but all I can hear is In the Night Garden music in the background. As my daughter is a little bit obsessed with that programme. And I'm not sure if the mic will be picking it up or not. Put my hair out of the way. I don't want to cut any of my hair. And we go round and right back to where we started at the beginning. Fab. So, retract your blade. Never leave your blade out. And there we go. We have lovely yellow ratty now. If that bit's still in one piece, you can keep it because that's always useful. You can use that at a later date. So we're going to use our pre-cut and coloured rat. So I'm going to move my cutting board so I'm going to get paint on that or anything. So I'm going to move that out of the way. And we're going to come back to, where is it? Oh, the one that's been painted. So we're back to our fabulous painted background. So there's loads of different ways you can put the rats onto the painted background. So I've done a one in black card because I want to show you how black on colour works very well. It looks gorgeous. But actually what we're going to do for this one is we're going to use the 3 green, yellow and orange rats. And you can have a play about with how you're positioning your rats onto your paper. So you can just do them all like that in a row. You can do them where they're slightly offset from each other. So it's like 3 layers of different colours. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to link them all by their tails. So I'm going to do that. So with the bit where the tail bends round, I'm going to stick all together. You can see, there you go, like that. And I'm going to stick them down. So I'm going to get my glue stick. And I'm going to start with the orange one. And we're going to stick him down. So going round the rat, you want to go round every little corner and every little bit to make sure it's got enough glue on it. So round, make sure you've got the feet. Again, you can put a piece of paper down when you do this if you'd like, because then you're not going to get glue on your work surface or on where you're working, and then everything else sticks to it later. So I'm just going to get a little bit of old card that I've previously used for a sign that I did. And I'm just going to pop that down while I'm gluing so I don't get glue everywhere all over the table and make everything sticky for later on. So all around the outside, down the tail and then into the middle. And he's glued up, and then we're going to stick him down. We're going to stick him there. Okay, so first ratty's stuck on, and then I'm going to use Andrew Green one next. So I'm going to go green ratty, and I'm going to stick him, and I'm going to link the tails. I'm stick him down, press it all down. Background's just about all dry now. And then I'm going to use third ratty. You can use PVA for this if you like. Just use it sparingly. You don't want to use too much thick PVA because it'll just blob out when you go to stick it down. There. Last but not least, I'll move that one out of the way, and we're going to stick number 3 ratty down, the yellow one. So hold it up. What you've got is 3 different rats all linked by the tails. Now, they're 3 coloured rats on a coloured background. So To make this a little bit more kind of street style, we're going to use black felt pen. So I've got a black Sharpie, but a black bog standard felt pen is perfect. This is just the best one that I've got at the minute. My felt pens, I think, are all running out. So what we're going to do is we're going to go round the outline of the rats. So take your time. So I'm going to start with the orange one. I go round the outside, all the way. Oh, made a mistake already. Don't worry, if you make a mistake, I'll show you how to rectify that later. Sometimes it doesn't go on the outline very easily. It just comes off the page. That's fine. So we can make it look like a shadow in a bit. So we can give some really nice shadow effect to the rats. So all around the outside. And I'm going to do this with all 3 rats, okay? So bear with me while I do this. Back onto the green one now. I'm on the tail of the green rat. Just checking for any more comments. Thank you for everybody that's commented so far. And the green one. I'm going to go around his claws, then his belly, and then his, I want to say arms, but they're not arms, are they? Hands. Rat. I think it's claws with a rat. I think that's the right word. Okay, and then around his lovely little ears. I think rats are very cute and nice as well. I know a lot of people. The rat gets a bit of a bad press, really. I think mice and rats are cute. You could draw faces on them if you'd like afterwards when we've done all this. So if you want to draw on the rats afterwards, you could do some really like cool, funky kind of cartoon style faces, or you could do my pen's running out now. You could do like really silly ratty faces. Oh, I've just gone over a bit of wet paint there. So my pen's now acting up. If you make sure your background's totally dry before you do this, it does help. But obviously, because we're doing this live, we can't just sit around waiting for the background to dry. So on my last one now, round the back. Fabulous. Right, so now, as you can see, that looks loads cooler. You can see the rats really well. You can have this artwork either way round. It works anyway. And any errors that you've made, you can actually turn it into shadows. So I'm going to get another pen because that one's playing up now. I've just gone through some paint. So let me get another Sharpie. Look in my lovely pencil case. Let's check out that it's... yeah, that's working. I have, as you can imagine, lots and lots of felt pens and Sharpies and different types of paint pens, but they don't always work. So I probably do need to go through my pencil case and just bin all the stuff that doesn't work anymore. So what I'm going to do on the rats is I'm going to go round and I'm going to make one side of them in shadow. And how I'm going to do that is I'm just going to make the black line thicker. So I'm going to do it on this one here. I will hold it up in a minute for you to see. And I'm going to go round and round, just making the black line thicker. Time check. We're doing all right for time. Good. So we're going to go... So, can you see on this side here, I've put them into shadow. So I'm going to do that for all 3 on the same side. Make the black line slightly thicker. Now this also adds kind of that street art kind of vibe. So when you see lots of different types of street art in cities and towns, often there's lots of different styles, and one of the styles is like graffiti lettering, and often you see a lot of really nice shadow work on those letters, and that's the kind of vibe we're going for here on the rats. This is also an activity you could do with lettering, so you don't have to use images. You can use, you could do your name, and you could draw your name in like a graffiti style lettering, cut it out, stick it on the background, do some shadows, decorate the lettering. So this is a really lovely, versatile activity that you can do. So done ratty number 2. Can you see how they stand out now? And they look really nice on this side. So that is our wonderful first piece of ratty art. Now I'm going to move on. I'm not going to colour the third rat shadow in, because you kind of get the idea. So I'm going to move on to using the other part of the stencil. So I'm going to set this to one side. So this is one of our, we can create loads of art doing this. This is one of the first pieces we've done. So move it to one side, and then I'm going to get the stencil, the middle that we've cut out, and another piece of card. You can use paper. We are going to use paint again, so if you use really thin paper it might just crinkle, so thicker paper and card is probably better. So what we're going to do with this one is we're going to set onto our piece of card. Now I'm going to pop him on, and I'm just going to pop him on at a slight angle on a skew, okay? You can use blue tack again to keep your piece of paper in the right place, or you can just hold it. So we're going to go back to using the paints. So I'm going to get my tray of paints again, and I'm going to start with pink. So I'm going to dab into the pink and then to one side again like I did earlier. And then we're going to start at the top of the rat for this one. So we're going to start and we're going to dab on. Now you don't want thick squidgy paint, because what happens is the paint goes underneath the stencil and you don't get a really nice outline. So we're just going to downwards splodge in with the paint onto Ratty's head. So I'm going to use 3 colours again, the same 3 colours that we used last time. So that's one colour done. Then I'm going to use purple. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and blend the colours. So let me move the camera so you can see. Right, there you go. So I'm going to go across first, and then I'm going to dab up to the line like this. Now that's quite a lot of paint on there, so we probably don't need all that paint. So we're going to dab up to the pink. This is quite difficult to do with one hand because I really should be holding the stencil, but you get the idea. So what you can do is, as the paint starts to thin, you can see where you can blend the two together. So really gently dabbing into the pink with a little bit of the purple, just like that, and you get like a lovely blended effect. So now I'm going to go back to doing the next bit, and I'm going to make sure that I hold it still for this bit. So I'm going to pop the camera back down and hold the paper down, and I'm going to do some yellow. Squirt a little bit more yellow paint out. I need a bit more yellow. And I'm going to use the other end of the sponge because that's just got a little bit dirty with some other colours on. So I'm going to dab into the paint and then to one side again. And I'm going to dab across. So I'm not going to dab where the purple is yet. So I'm just going to do all the bottom part yellow. You could have done 4 colours with this, that probably would have worked nicely. You could have done his tail. In fact, let's do 4 colours. You could use his tail in a different colour, so bear with me a second. I'm going to get some orange as well. Right. So, we've got some orange, and we're going to use that one too. Apologies for the camera angles as they keep changing and moving around. We're working with what we've got. So, a little bit of yellow paint, orange paint, sorry. So, we're going to finish off with the yellow. I'm going to do his feet. And then I'm going to blend the yellow into the purple, and I'm doing that by dabbing up and down really gently, so some of the yellow goes into the purple. Okay, so once you've done that, you can actually come back with the dry purple sponge and dab a little bit into the yellow as well, and then you will see a really nice blend. Take your time, play about, experiment. That's the best way of learning anything. Sometimes you'll do a blend and it'll just look, oh, that doesn't look very well, very good at all. So you don't worry about it. Go on to the next one, try again. The more you do it, the easier it'll become, and then the better you'll be. So like anything in life, practice makes perfect. And then I'm going to get another sponge, and I'm going to go back to Mr. Ratty, and I'm going to do his tail, and I'm going to do this in orange. So I'm going to dab where his tail is in orange all the way up. So lots of thin layers is better than one big thick wet layer when it comes to this type of stenciling. Normally with these stencils we would be using spray paint. However, you guys probably haven't got lots of colours of spray paint at home, so that's why we're using paint today. So normally you would use one of these types of stencils, and we would use it on a board or something similar, and we would use the stencil up against the board with some spray glue and then spray paint over the top. But today we're doing our paint version for everybody at home. So I'm going to blend the tail again. So blending yellow into orange and orange into yellow is probably easier than doing yellow into purple because they are lighter colours, so it does help. So that's now done. I'm going to do the big reveal, so we'll turn him round, and there is your beautiful blended colourful Ratty. Now I love doing the different colours that all blend into one, and you can use this and you can step and repeat it on the same piece of paper. So you can wait for your stencil to dry though. That's a good thing to mention. Make sure that this stencil here and the piece of paper that you're using have completely dried before you pop it on again. Otherwise all you're going to do is you're going to end up getting paint everywhere. It's going to transfer from one thing to another, and it's going to make your piece of work look a bit rubbish because there'll just be paint everywhere. So we can pop our stencil down again. You could do it upside down, you could do it at a different angle, and you can use different colours, and you can build it up with as many as you want onto your piece. So that's using the outside part of the stencil. So we've done 2 different techniques today in our part 1 workshop. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm pretty sure I'm running to my end of my 45 minutes. And we're going to be doing some more street art stencil style stuff next week on the Wednesday, and that's going to be at the same time, 1 o'clock. Hopefully by then I will have sorted my tech problem out. I'll be using my laptop, which might be a little bit more straightforward. And there is also an artist takeover, which is going to be on the 4 o'clock today on the Artcore gallery page, and please check it out. It's going to be awesome, and it's going to be with Martin Hyde. So I hope you enjoyed the workshop, and I will see you all again next week. Okay, fab, bye.